Gemini, welcome to your weekly reading for October the 3rd to the 9th. Let's get started and see what messages we have for Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising, keeping in mind these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone. So make sure to check out your other placements because you could have messages there. Okay, for Gemini, what is the energy around the week ahead for Gemini? Oh, that one wanted to come out. What's the energy around the week ahead here for Gemini? Got no place like home, flipping over. Okay. Oh, look at that. Chop wood, new life, and no place like home. Really nice. So I feel like taken together you are, oh, and there's poised on the bottom of the deck. So it feels like you're getting ready, you're preparing, you're confident, you're moving towards new opportunities. Now, seeing no place like home in reverse, that's interesting because I feel like all these messages are sort of pointing us towards you taking steps towards something new. You're feeling confident, you're feeling like you're ready for some new opportunities here. And then all of a sudden we see no place like home in reverse. And that's interesting. It's not a negative card by any stretch when it's in reverse, but seeing this card in reverse really makes me feel like you're heading into something here that is familiar. And it's interesting that this familiarity could be a trigger warning here. So it's like you're on your way moving towards these new opportunities, and then all of a sudden you sort of catch yourself being sort of in a pattern that is familiar, that isn't one that you want to be in anymore. It's very interesting. Sometimes choosing things that are unfamiliar to us and trusting that we know where where we see ourselves, but not by choosing what's familiar to us. Sometimes those familiar things are patterns that we kind of want to release ourselves from. So it's almost like seeing this in reverse is one of those moments, kind of reminds me of an episode of Seinfeld where George was like, I'm just going to do the opposite of whatever feels right. Sometimes that kind of thinking helps us break patterns down that are not serving us anymore. This could be a time that won't be different unless you choose something different, if that makes sense. This is very interesting, Gemini. This is a time where you're really being guided to not make the same choices that you've made before, because then you're going to end up in the same places that you've been before. You're really being guided, Gemini, to be confident and to prepare for new opportunities by making choices that are almost unfamiliar to you. Like George said, do the opposite. Leave me a comment below if you know that episode of Seinfeld. And it's funny, I mean, it's a silly sitcom, but in that episode, he does change his life that way. He has this sudden realization that every choice he's made up until that point has led him into the same places. And so he says, I should just do the opposite of what feels right for now. And that will rewire and reprogram things. And in the episode, of course, it does, because it's a funny little sitcom. But in looking at your reading, that's the same guidance here, is that by making the same choices over and over again, you're going to find yourself in the same experiences over and over again. And even as I part the deck, we see the Moon and the Six of Wands, which tells me that your path to success is through the unknown. Your path to victory is going to be taking the most unfamiliar paths. And even those that might be you might be feeling some trepidation towards the unfamiliar, but it feels like that's what you need right now, Gemini. Isn't that interesting? The path that is the most unfamiliar to you is the one that is going to lead to this new life. Yeah. 9 of Pentacles in reverse. So you need to sort of get out of that comfort zone that you've created all these years for yourself. You've done well for yourself. I see the King of Pentacles here as well. But I feel like, and there's the Ace of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck. Very interesting. A lot of this is going to involve shifting things in the material world. Okay. And we see Temperance also coming through in reverse. So being really patient. I think right now you're saying no to a lot of things. You might be saying no to things that are unfamiliar because they're unfamiliar. And like I said, they could be bringing up some anxiety for you. They're definitely trying to push you out of your comfort zone. You're not feeling confident outside of your comfort zone. And you're not trusting things that require trust, right? Things that you can't see around the corner. So it's almost like you're like, well, if I can't see around the corner, if I can't see where that path is leading, I'm not taking it. And ironically, that's exactly what you're being guided to do, is to take the path that's unfamiliar, to trust yourself, to see what happens when you leave your comfort zone. And instead of sort of being pessimistic with your thumb down to the universe in this Ace of Wands in reverse, to see this as an opportunity for a new life, like this card has indicated for you. And to be confident, to trust that you know how to overcome obstacles. You got the Seven of Cups here, and that tells me that all of those familiar options are not for you anymore. You're needing to sort of expand your horizon here and take a step into an unknown path to see where that will lead, and then to sort of experience that path. There may be some patterns that are really locked in here that you're really being guided to shift. When I see that Ten of Pentacles in reverse with the Knight of Swords, you're really being guided to allow change to happen here, even if it goes against what you've been doing this whole time. Gemini, it's exactly what you need to do right now. Yeah, this is interesting. King of Swords coming out, sort of staring down the Knight of Swords. They're staring at each other. This is a time to really balance change and strategy. I feel like you're being guided here to allow all this change to happen, and then to sort of very strategically change your perspective about what's unfamiliar being, I feel like you may have already labeled the unfamiliar as a risk. And maybe you've said out loud, I don't take risks. I don't involve myself in anything that I can't understand before it happens. And it's interesting. It's almost like seeing the Knight and the King of Swords looking at each other here. This makes me think that you're being guided towards this change, and it's moving quickly. And it's like you must rely on your very strong logic here. Your sense of the mind here, your thought pattern, the way you perceive things. You need to be very strategic about how you frame this for yourself. And I mean, the Knight of Swords is Gemini energy. So seeing this Knight of Swords appear here, I feel like it's challenging your logic to say, perhaps we need to do things in a different way if we want to experience a different outcome. And that is sort of the essence of what's coming through for you in this reading. And there's that Ace of Pentacles that was on the bottom of the deck earlier, and now it's back. You've got the Ace of Wands and the Ace of Pentacles, both in reverse. I think because you don't see this as an opportunity, but it is. Putting your mind to rest is really going to help here, because it's like you need to almost surrender some of the way that you think about things. And you could also be, recovering. You could be recovering from this big change still. There may have been something that happened here, Gemini, to catalyze this change. Something happened to force you out of your comfort zone a little bit. Something happened to put you in a position where a new opportunity is possible. And I think you're still recovering from the catalyst. You're recovering from whatever it was that brought you to this change. But it's bringing you into balance. It's making you choose something new. And I say that because behind there's the Lovers, which is another Gemini card. So this reflection, this self-reflection is bringing you to a place where it's like stay grounded in what's happening right now, because it's all evolving and changing so that you can have this new path. This feels really exciting, but at the same time, I feel like whatever was the catalyst here was difficult, because it really did push you out of your comfort zone and it changed your plans. You had plans that got changed here, and maybe quite suddenly, or maybe you knew it was coming. But whatever it was, it changed your day to day enough that now you've almost got to reground, and you're being guided to do so in a new vibe, one that's unfamiliar, a new unfamiliar vibe. Very interesting. Let's clarify some of these cards. Yeah, look at that. You got the sun and the moon coming out at the same time, both in reverse. These cards follow each other in tarot. Okay, so the moon goes before the sun, but they both came out next to each other and in reverse. So that tells me a lot actually, but with what we've seen already here, that really shows me that you don't feel comfortable right now, to say the least. You don't feel comfortable in what's transforming, and you don't feel optimistic about what's to come next. But, I really feel like you need time to recover, and then you might feel a little bit differently, but you're really being guided to choose the most unfamiliar path. And I think seeing the moon in reverse with the sun in reverse tells me that you feel very pessimistic about things that are unfamiliar. You like to know what's going to happen. You want to know what's A plus B equal. And you don't like the uncertainty of not knowing. But it's almost like that's exactly where you need to be right now, because it's going to show you a new pathway here for you, something that is bringing you to a new life. But like I said, you're really exhausted from whatever the catalyst was. And I feel like 9 of Wands energy can be a time where we're ready to give up. Like where we're almost there, but we don't think we're almost there. And we're about ready to surrender in a way that is like resignation surrender, nothing empowering about that. That's almost like just waving your white flag and saying, I give up. I don't want to do this anymore. And I feel like you just need time to recover from this. You very, very dangerously close to being at the level of burnout. And so seeing the 4 of Swords and the rest of this energy tells me that you might be feeling pessimistic because you're burnt out, and because things are not like you sort of anticipated they would be, or that you didn't plan it this way. And you're probably a very big planner, and so seeing things happen in a different way has thrown you off. There's the Page of Cups in reverse. So you've got this opportunity, this beautiful new that's coming right on the Ace of Pentacles or Ace of Wands. There's this opportunity for transformation here, but I don't think you see it as an opportunity for transformation because it's making you significantly uncomfortable. But sometimes forming a new path and taking that unfamiliar road, of course, that's going to feel a little uncomfortable. But it's the idea of trusting that if everything is not okay yet, then you haven't gotten to the end of this timeline yet. It's almost this idea of trusting that all will be well. And if it's not well right now, it will be, And it's that idea of having this response to anything in your life with that equanimity that says everything's fine. And if it's not fine, it will be fine. That it will, and to trust that. I feel like you're holding a lot of stress. We see the 4 of Wands in reverse. You're holding a lot of stress and not a lot of gratitude right now. You're not grateful for this change, not just yet. And that's fair. I think it's because you don't understand that it's leading you to something new. Or even if it is something you understand that's leading you to something new, you're almost like, well, that's not the path I wanted. And so we may need to be more flexible. There's that 4 of Swords coming out again, twice. So, it's interesting here. It's very interesting here, Gemini. I feel like you need to recover and don't dismiss this moment in your life. Just recover. Take you the time you need to recover so that you don't feel so ready to give up, and find the moments where you're grateful. Focus on gratitude right now. Focus on trusting that all will be well right now. Focus on this transformative path you're on towards a new experience, and release this overthinking energy here. This is also Gemini energy. We've seen 3 Gemini cards in your reading already. You're terrified of an outcome. You're something that it's whatever catalyzed this. You're taking it down and you're saying, because this happened, this is what the rest of this picture is going to look like, and you don't see anything positive here. And yet I feel like it's leading you to a new opportunity. You just need some time to reflect on it, not to hide out alone and sort of further the pessimism, but a time to sort of understand the wisdom of whatever it is that you've just recently gone through, to see that it's opening you up for something new. I feel like you're going to have the opportunity to do something here that you wouldn't have had the opportunity to do unless this situation had changed. And so sometimes change is uncomfortable, but it happens to free up the energy for something new. And look at that. The Fool. You are starting again, Gemini. You are starting all over again. And it's a brand new beginning that right now feels incredibly uncomfortable, but it's going to come through in a way that allows you to sort of get out of any sort of conflict that you're in now, any sort of ego battles, anything that's forcing you to sort of lose your cool, if you will. I feel like you're getting some serious pushes from the divine to allow this change to have the effect it's meant to have on your path right now. Really interesting. Okay, let's see here. What does Gemini need to surrender or surrender to? Surrender or surrender to? Oh, surrender to your soul's path. Amazing. It says here, your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth. Embrace every lesson and every moment. Absolutely. And on the bottom of the deck, we're seeing surrender to non-action. Now is the time to be still and not act. Simply breathe and focus on your power and let others come to you. And I feel, oh, look at that. Behind that, we see surrender your fear of change. Really, Gemini, I feel like this is for you. The universe is reminding you that you are cared for always. When you're afraid of a change in your job, your health, your relationship, whether you feel fear, aging, or death, repeat this affirmation: I have faith that all is well, and that all will be well. So this has been a very interesting reading. I'm going to leave it at that for you, Gemini. You are on the path to a new beginning. It was catalyzed by something that you need to recover fully from first. So surrender to this path. Take some time to recover and release your fear of change, because this is going to bring you to a really beautiful new beginning. I see the Ace of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands and the Page of Cups, the Fool card. You are moving towards something brand new. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading, Gemini. If it's resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. If you would like a personal reading, you can find that information in the description box below. Sending you so much love and light. Take care.